Hi, good morning. If you could have any superpower, what would it be? Maybe you're part of the 28% of Americans who want to read minds, so you can take a glimpse at what other people are thinking. Or maybe you're part of the other 28% who want to time travel, so you can explore the future, or maybe fix the past. As a senior, you do a lot of reflection. I'm sure underclassmen would understand this to some extent, but it's especially prominent this year. If I could time travel, I could explore different realities and possibilities where I'm happier, or maybe I'm not. One thing I would do for certain if I could time travel is go back to 6th grade and tell myself one thing. Don't wear your hair in a high ponytail every single day for the next 3 years. I'm sure I could save my scalp a lot of pain. But how much would this really affect me? According to Wayman from the movie Everything Everywhere All at Once, the smallest decisions can compound into significant differences over a lifetime. Every tiny decision you make creates another branching universe. While we don't have evidence of multiverses actually existing, his words still have some truth to them. Every action you take has a consequence, and there's a chance that the outcome might be significant. So it's entirely possible that if I were able to go back in time and stop myself from wearing that high ponytail, that I'd find out that I had curly hair and start to take care of it, and that I'd drastically change who I was in middle school, and therefore who I am now. But it's also entirely possible that I would continue to brush out my curls and walk around with frizzy hair like I did when I was a freshman. There's no guarantee that going back in time would improve my life. There are no guarantees in life, only uncertainties and probabilities. But if there was a chance at improving yourself, wouldn't you take it? I want to go on a journey with y'all. Let's travel back in time together. Our first destination is the 2022 midterm elections last year. During this time, voter turnout decreased by 7.3% compared to the last election. Only 8.1 million votes were cast out of the 17.1 million registered voters in Texas. Considering the fact that Greg Abbott and Beto were only separated by a margin of 1 million votes, imagine what those 9 million votes would have done. It's possible that the outcome of the election wouldn't have changed, but it's also possible that it would have. You have to embrace this uncertainty. One vote may not change the entire election, but it certainly brings us closer to enabling that change. Now, that's all in the past, so we can't really do anything about that. So let's move backward, further in time, back to my time at Texas Girls State, a mock state government with girls from all over Texas. The highlight of my days at this program were breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, it's not because of the cafeteria food, but it was because of High C Poppin' Lemonade, the best pink lemonade to ever exist. My friend and I would drink a cup of this lemonade with each one of our meals, and eventually we even started filling our water bottles with them. However, all good things must come to an end, and tragedy struck on the second to last day of the program. They ran out of pink lemonade, completely. Now, I don't know how much I actually contributed to the issue, but I can say that if I was a little bit more sparing with how much I drank, it probably would have lasted a little bit longer. So yes, I contributed to the issue, but it wasn't entirely my fault. There are so many issues, so many global problems that we all contribute to, but it's never completely our fault. Sure, we throw away trash, but so do 7 billion other people. We drive cars, but so do 2 billion people. We buy things at obscenely low prices from retailers that have questionable practices, but so do millions and millions of other people. So what's the point? Some of you may try to prevent your impact on the environment, and some of you may even recycle, while some of you don't. Admittedly, it's discouraging to hear that according to the EPA, 267.8 million tons of municipal waste is produced by Americans, but only 30% of it is actually recycled. So again, what's the point? What's the point of going out of your way to take action for something that's so much bigger than yourself, something that's on the scale of the entire Earth. This is known as causal inefficacy. Causal inefficacy is the idea that your actions are determined solely by their consequences. The value of your actions depends on the scale of your impact. But the issue is, your impact diminishes as the chain of events becomes longer and longer. Essentially, the less direct your action is, the less meaningful it is. Causal inefficacy tells us that there's no point in me drinking less pink lemonade because 100 other girls were also drinking it. There's no point in recycling because there's still millions and millions of tons of trash out there. There's no point in voting because your vote is just one in millions and it won't make a difference anyways. But causal inefficacy fails to realize that there's more to our climate, our society, than just probabilities and pragmatism. It's easy to dismiss these social problems and other environmental problems on things that are greater than us, and simply based on numbers and statistics. We can dismiss the burden of climate change on the United States and on large corporations. After all, the United States is responsible for 6 billion metric tons of CO2, with 35% of them attributed to industry and agriculture. Clearly, corporations contribute significantly more to climate change than any one of us do. Causal inefficacy tells us that because the United States contributes so much to climate change, it is their responsibility and not ours to do something about it. But we as individuals aren't innocent. 27% of those emissions are attributed to transportation. That includes the cars and buses that we take every day. Even more so, the average American emits nearly 20 metric tons of CO2. On the contrary, individuals from other countries emit less than 5 metric tons. That means that we emit 400% more emissions than anyone else in the world. Do we not owe it to the rest of the world to reduce our impact on the environment since we're one of the greatest contributors? You're not selfish for not wanting to take action. You're not selfish for being intimidated by the magnitude of climate change. You're not selfish for being intimidated by the seeming ineffectiveness of recycling or by the triviality of your actions in comparison to the rest of the world. But you're just a little bit responsible. And here's why. There are two types of responsibility: causal and moral. Causal responsibility is simply when you are the cause of some outcome. Causal responsibility is when a baby starts crying on a plane. I am causally responsible for throwing away a water bottle in a trash can because I was too lazy to go find a recycling bin. I am causally responsible for climate change because I make the smallest actions that contribute to it. Moral responsibility, however, is when there are morals actually attributed to your behavior. It's when you have an obligation to correct your mistakes. Babies don't have a moral responsibility for crying on a plane because they're flying at an altitude at over 30,000 feet, and as annoying as it may be, they really can't do anything about that. I don't have a moral responsibility for climate change, but I do have a moral responsibility for trying to recycle when I can instead of throwing stuff away. Now, being aware of your responsibility is just the first step. But being aware isn't enough. You need to take action. You need to find the motivation to actually do something about it. Just like I said before, you're not selfish for being afraid and being intimidated by the vastness, by the huge scale of the world. But you're just a little bit selfish because you still have that moral responsibility to make up for your mistakes. It's an amount of selfishness that you can decrease, but only if you want to. Now, let's travel back in time, way back, when I was about 10 years old, and I went to McDonald's for the first time. So I was a vegetarian, so clearly there weren't very many options. I asked for a cheeseburger with no meat. And when I got my order, it was bread and cheese. I went back and I asked for them to add literally anything else. I got my order back again. They gave me bread and pickles, not even a slice of cheese. Clearly, being vegetarian is a hassle. I didn't do it out of my love for the environment or animals, and especially not for salads. But I did it because I was born and raised Hindu. However, even now, when I'm not that religious, I'm still a vegetarian. Whenever I go out with my friends, there are times when I have to eat a salad or when I have to eat meals just as unappetizing as this one. But I've never stopped being vegetarian because of the inconvenience. It's something I know I can do, and it's something I know reduces my impact on the environment. And so I continue to do it. Now, I'm not telling you guys to go vegan or to completely change your diet. Yes, it would be nice if we reduced our meat consumption and therefore reduced the impact that the meat industry had on the environment. But I understand how intimidating that can be. For changes like this to occur, everyone has to do something, or almost everyone has to do it. And to be one of the first people to do it can feel isolating. And here's when causal inefficacy strikes again. If you're the only one who is going out of your way to limit your meat consumption, while there's still billions and billions of other people who are continuing like nothing's happening, then what's the point? Now, you need to decide why you want to be good. You shouldn't rely on whether other people are doing things to determine whether you want to do it. You shouldn't lessen your impact on the environment because other people are doing it. You don't need to be good because other people are being good. So I want to ask you, why do you want to be good? Outside of everyone else, why do you want to be good? You don't need to think about your actions on a global scale. Not all of your actions will result in some sort of grandiose change. But you need to find some reason why you want to do something good. Maybe your motivation ultimately comes from selfishness. Maybe you want to bask in the glory of knowing that you're doing something good. Or maybe you genuinely want to do it. But whether your motivation comes from self-satisfaction or from altruism doesn't matter, as long as you find that motivation and actually act on it. Our last step in this time travel journey is when I was 5 years old. And this is back when my mom still dressed me and I didn't really have any stakes in my fashion choices. Every day, I would go to school in some monochromatic outfit, which was apparently the paradigm of fashion back then. I didn't know much about clothing at the time, but what I did know is I loved buying things, and I loved cute stuff. Kids are pretty selfish in that way, but I still think we're pretty selfish now. A lot of people, myself included, love the thrill of buying new things, the novelty of newness. But knowing the impact that large retailers have on the environment, that the horrible conditions that their workers are under, is disillusioning. The childish glee that we experience when we buy something new is just that, childish. We now have the maturity to acknowledge the consequences of our actions. And we need to do something about our consumption, and so we should turn to sustainability. There's currently a shift to thrifting rather than shopping at large retailers, and it's not that hard of a change to enact. The majority of my wardrobe is thrifted, and even if I do shop at large retailers, I try to maximize its usage. So let's do a quick fit check, okay? So these boots I got at a large retailer, but I've had them for about 4 years now, and same with my socks. This skirt and button-up I thrifted. I even wore this outfit at least 3 times in the past month. Clearly, fashion comes easy when you're not afraid to rewear things, when you're not afraid to push clothing to its limit. So when I go shopping, especially for clothes, there are 3 things I always like to ask myself. Will I wear this in 3 years? Will I have worn this last year? And how many outfits can I put together with this? Ideally, the answer to each question should be yes, yes, and a number greater than 2. And the trick here is not to lie to yourself. And if you've satisfied all these requirements, then you can go ahead and buy whatever you're wanting to buy. I know that shopping at thrift stores won't suddenly improve the lives of the underpaid workers or negate our consumer society. But the beauty of thrifting is that it has a direct impact on you. Buying clothes at a cheaper price isn't going to save the earth, but it'll certainly save your paycheck. Now, I want to revisit the question we were talking about at the very beginning. If you could have a superpower, what would it be? What would you do with it? If I could go back in time, I would revisit the big moments in life, the moments that are filled with nostalgia, happiness, anger, or regret. Time travel and superpowers allow us to experience something that we can no longer experience, change what is fundamentally unchangeable. But superpowers can't change reality. Let's say I suddenly gain the ability to grow millions of trees within seconds. That won't change the mundane, everyday actions of life. It won't change the car rides to and from school, the trashed water bottles, the 3-day-old roadkill I see every morning and afternoon. No amount of trees I plant will stop possums from being hit by cars and from water bottles being thrown anywhere but recycling bin. So while superpowers are nice, they're not necessary. What matters is the present. What matters is you right now, right here. Why are you here? Acknowledge what led up to this moment. I'm standing on this giant red dot because the memory of 1,000 car rides, of all the trash I've accumulated over the years, of all the clothing I bought and barely worn, it's compounded into something so great I can no longer ignore it. Sure, it's insignificant in comparison to the rest of the world, but it's significant in my memories. It's significant to me, and I want to do something about it. Ultimately, I can't tell you what to do. Only you can decide whether you want to take responsibility for your actions or not. Only you can decide whether you want to take a step to improve your life, to improve the world around you, or whether you don't want to make that effort. So it's your choice. You decide. What will it be? Are you going to wear your dad's old jacket, or will you go to the mall and buy a new one? Will you do what you know is right, or will you push the moment away and let the consequences accumulate over time? In the end, only you can decide what is wrong and what is right. But you need to decide now. Thank you.